The street was too quiet for a Tuesday evening. Old porch lights flickered across narrow lawns, and the smell of rain clung to everything, like the city was holding its breath. 8-year-old Jalen Pierce sat on the cracked steps outside Building 4, shoelaces untied, staring at a puddle that mirrored the orange sky. His clothes were 2 sizes too big, his eyes older than they should have been. Every few seconds, he glanced toward the parking lot, waiting for a car that didn't come back. Inside, his mother had promised she'd return before dark. She said she was only going to sort something out with the man who'd been hanging around since Friday. She hadn't come back. Jalen didn't cry. He couldn't. The sound of crying always made the man angry. So he just waited, until the police car turned the corner. The blue lights didn't flash. It moved slow, like it didn't want attention. From the passenger window, a German shepherd's head poked out, ears twitching. The dog's eyes caught Jalen's for a heartbeat. That was when something strange happened. Jalen didn't wave. He didn't shout. He raised one hand, thumb and pinky tucked, 3 fingers trembling in the air. He did it twice, quick and sharp. Inside the car, Officer Leah Grant leaned forward. "Ranger's reacting," she said to her partner. Ranger growled once, low. He was a veteran K-9, trained to sense distress signals that weren't spoken. Leah trusted that instinct more than most humans. She stepped out, her boots splashing softly. "Hey, little man. You waiting for somebody?" Jalen didn't answer. He just looked toward Building 4's open doorway, where a faint yellow light flickered. Ranger gave a short bark, tail stiff. Leah followed his gaze, every nerve in her body tightening. "You mind if I look inside?" she asked gently. Jalen's head moved an inch, almost a nod, but scared of being won. The hallway reeked of cheap beer and something burnt. Paint peeled off the walls in long strips. Somewhere, a television muttered static. Ranger moved ahead, his paws soundless, nose tracing invisible trails through the stale air. Halfway down the corridor, Leah heard it, breathing. Not hers. Not the dog's. Someone trying not to be heard. "Ranger, stay," she whispered. The breathing stopped. Then a door slammed. Leah ran. The dog bolted past her before she could give the command. Inside the room, everything was chaos, chairs knocked over, a phone buzzing on the floor, a curtain flapping from an open window. And on the worn carpet, a woman lay still, her wrists bruised but untied. Ranger whined and nuzzled her shoulder. She stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Jalen," she gasped. "Where's?" Leah knelt beside her. "He's outside. He's safe." The woman tried to sit up. "No, you don't understand," she said, breath ragged. "They're coming back." Before Leah could ask who, Ranger's ears flattened. The dog turned toward the hallway, growling deep in his chest. 2 shadows crossed the doorway. "Police!" Leah shouted. But the figures ran. Ranger lunged after them, Leah following through the rain-slick night until they vanished down the back stairwell. By the time backup arrived, all that was left were muddy footprints and the faint smell of gasoline. Outside, Jalen waited by the cruiser, shaking, clutching something small in his fist. Leah crouched beside him. "You're safe now," she said softly. "Your mom's gonna be all right." He looked up at her, voice tiny. "You have to stop them. They want the bag." Leah frowned. "What bag, honey?" Jalen opened his hand. Inside was a silver dog tag, military style, old and scratched, the kind of thing someone keeps when they can't let go. The name stamped on it was E. Walker. "She told me if anything happened," he whispered, "to give this to the dog." Leah blinked. "To the dog?" Jalen nodded, certain. "Ranger knows." The words made no sense, but Ranger was pacing now, circling the cruiser, nose to the ground, tail stiff like a compass needle locked on something unseen. He stopped at the curb and barked once, short and sharp. Leah followed his line of sight down the block. There, half hidden under a street lamp, was an old green duffel bag, rain-soaked, unmarked. Her gut went cold. The woman's warning echoed in her ears. "They're coming back." She turned to her partner. "Call it in. Now." But before the words finished leaving her mouth, a car engine roared at the far end of the street, headlights off, speeding straight toward them. Ranger barked again, louder this time, and Jalen's voice cracked through the storm. "That's them." Leah grabbed the boy and dove behind the cruiser as the car screeched to a halt. Two doors flew open, and figures stepped out wearing masks and gloves, one holding something that shimmered even through the rain. Ranger lunged forward before Leah could stop him, faster than the thunder, straight into the dark. What he found next froze every cop on that block. The night tore open with the sound of tires screaming against wet asphalt. Officer Leah Grant shielded Jalen behind the cruiser, her radio hissing with static as she tried to call backup. But Ranger was already in motion, a blur of muscle and instinct cutting through the storm. The German shepherd lunged toward the masked men, his bark slicing the dark like a siren. One of them swung a crowbar, missing by inches. The other raised a pistol. The gunshot cracked the air. Jalen screamed. Leah fired back, glass exploding across the street. The masked men ducked behind their car. Ranger disappeared behind a trash bin, silent now, too silent. "Ranger!" Leah shouted. Nothing. Only the rain hammering the pavement. Then, from the shadows, came a growl, low and furious. Ranger burst forward again, teeth clamped on the gunman's sleeve. The weapon clattered to the ground. Leah rushed in, tackling the second man before he could run. By the time the flashing lights flooded the street, both attackers were cuffed and shaking in the downpour. But the strange duffel bag still sat on the curb, soaked through, humming with a danger that made Leah's skin crawl. She crouched beside it. "We'll get this checked," she told Jalen, voice softer now. The boy just shook his head. "That's not what they want," he said quietly. Leah unzipped it anyway. Inside, wrapped in a towel, was a stack of old photo envelopes, a handful of medals, and a letter sealed in plastic. The top of the letter read, "To the one who finds this. Tell my son the truth." Leah blinked. "What truth?" Jalen stared at the bag, eyes wide. "That's my mom's handwriting." At the hospital an hour later, his mother, Erica Pierce, lay in a dim room, wrist bandaged, voice hoarse. When she saw the dog tag around Leah's neck, her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean for him to be part of it," she whispered. "It was supposed to stay hidden." Leah leaned closer. "Who were those men?" Erica swallowed hard. "They used to work with Eli Walker, Jalen's father." Leah froze. "The name on the tag." "He was a soldier," Erica continued. "When he died overseas, he left something behind, proof that a few men in his unit were running weapons off base. I thought it was gone, but Eli mailed me that bag before her voice broke. "They've been watching us for months. Waiting for me to open it." Jalen stood in the doorway, silent. The truth was a weight he didn't know how to carry. "Your dad wasn't a criminal," Erica said, reaching for his hand. "He was trying to do the right thing. That's why I told you, if anything ever happened, find the dog. He'd know who to trust." Leah looked at Ranger lying by the door, bandaged paw resting on the tile. Somehow, that command had survived years and distance, a coded instinct between a soldier and his dog. When Leah checked the bag again, something inside the lining caught her attention. The stitching was thicker along one edge. She cut through it carefully, and found a hidden flash drive, wrapped in foil. It was old, scuffed, and stamped with a military seal. Erica's breath hitched. "That's it. That's what they were after." Before Leah could answer, the hospital lights flickered. A shadow crossed the hall window, the unmistakable shape of a man in a security jacket. But his badge didn't match. "Stay with them," Leah whispered to a nurse. She slipped out the side door, hand on her weapon, Ranger limping beside her. At the far end of the corridor, the fake guard was gone. Only the stairwell door swayed open. Ranger growled again. They followed the trail down to the parking garage, empty except for one black SUV idling near the exit. Leah raised her weapon. "Police! Turn off the engine." The driver rolled down his window slowly. Rain dripped from his hat brim, but his smile was calm. "Officer Grant," he said. "You have something that doesn't belong to you." "How do you know my name?" He tilted his head. "Because the people who sent me already have your partner. Thought I'd give you one chance to hand it over before things get unpleasant." Leah's stomach dropped. Her partner, still back at the station. Ranger's ears twitched. He barked once, sharp, toward the SUV's trunk. Leah moved closer, heart pounding, and saw a faint flicker of light through the metal gap. Someone was inside. But before she could act, the SUV's headlights flared. The engine roared, and the vehicle shot backward, tires screaming. Leah dove aside, firing once at the tires. The SUV skidded, crashed into a pillar, and smoke filled the air. Ranger tore at the trunk latch until it popped. Inside, Leah's partner was bound but alive. The man in the driver's seat was slumped forward, whispering one word before going still. "Walker." Later, as paramedics swarmed the garage, Leah found the flash drive again and turned it in. The data would expose an entire chain of corruption stretching back years, one that had buried Eli Walker's name in silence. Outside, the storm was breaking. Jalen ran to Ranger, throwing his arms around the dog's neck. "Guess your dad picked the right hero," Leah said softly. Ranger licked the boy's face once, tail wagging weakly. The morning sun cracked the clouds, lighting the wet street like glass. And for the first time in weeks, Jalen smiled, not because the danger was gone, but because the truth had finally come home.